and do not adjust your TV sets. It is Friday night. It is 7 o'clock, but we are treating this like it's Thursday night at 8 o'clock. We're also treating this like it's Thursday night at 8 o'clock and maybe 2022 because don't blink. The gang's back together.
What?
Megan, our heel of heels, our heel in heels is back. EJ the Collector is back. Wrestling Chat with Friends is back. Oh, we just looked. Shout out to our what was Ty's nickname? I can't even remember now.
Oh,
Ty Dollar? Ty No Dollar?
Ty the Nerd?
Ty
no,
No
he
Dollar.
wasn't Ty the Nerd. Where is he though? Is he here? Tell him to log in.
that would be too much. That would our heads would explode. But you are back, heels, and we've got a lot to talk about before we get into everything else. First, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm so good. I'm on summer break from UNC. First year of my PhD in the books. I passed all my classes.
Yay! Oh, the air horns! I forgot. Mercy.
Yeah,
how exciting.
Just enjoying the summer, hanging out with the kids, spending a lot of time in the sun because I didn't see the sun many days during school. I would get there before the sun got up and wouldn't leave. And they don't give us windows in our offices. We're just in a little box in the corner. You scamper when you turn the lights on.
Well, it is great. So great to see you. We're going to get into all kinds of different things, and we'll definitely bring up way more of life stuff as well. Also joining us on Thursday night, as always, the host of our Tuesday show, EJ the Collector. EJ, how you doing, my man?
Happy to say that I am here, I am present, I am accounted for, and I am accountable. It is fantastic to have the band together. Thank you, everyone out there, for the privilege of your time joining us tonight on a Friday, before Friday shows, before this weekend shows. Let's get Collector's Choice out of the way. We haven't done a Collector's Choice in a long time. Certainly haven't done one with you, Megan. This is recent. Megan, you probably haven't seen this.
I
had this show this a few weeks ago, but here it is. Remember back at what ended up being Brawl Out when CM Punk gave his post-scrum interview and he had those muffins he was eating, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when MJF had one?
The pickles.
The pickles. Well, believe it or not, Kalen and Kalen Pickles immediately put out a limited edition MJF Classic Sourdills. Yep, right there. I got it last week from them. I haven't opened them. I probably won't open these.
You need to open it and have a pickle and tell us how great they are.
First of all, a collector never opens something sealed in a collector's item. Cheats, not a pickle guy or not a old.
I don't know about saving the pickles. Like, is there a way you can like open it, preserve the jar, and like take the pickles? I don't know if I need to have the pickles.
That's like the whole point of pickles, right? That you can have them. Well,
that's a good point, Megan. As any good collector knows, Cheats. Lucite will solve all problems. I'll encase it in lucite, no problem. There's wine from the 1700s that's been preserved.
But pickles? I understand. This is not a bottle of wine. We're not talking about a bottle of wine.
How dare you? How dare you, sir? Pickled means like kept for a long period.
But how long is a long period?
I think we should Google.
Well,
we should look up how long.
In 2030,
tell us.
In 2033, when my son's a sophomore in college and comes home and is drunk one night and he cracks open these 20-year-old pickles.
Oh God!
He'll report back to you. Jeez. We are getting way off base, but MJF pickles. Maybe I will open them. I'm sure they're great. There we go.
I like the casing. I'm trying to figure out how you preserve the casing, but also not have pickles inside.
Maybe I'll open up and eat the pickles. You're making a good argument there, Chief.
There we go.
Let's talk wrestling.
Online, though, it's only 2 to 5 years. The people need to know. This is like important information. And the internet says 2 to 5 years.
That's just sitting in a
pantry. In the jar. If you open them, they suggest no more than 18 months.
Yeah, it's gonna be
more than 18 open pickles. No more than a good year and a half. Here we go. Let's get it on, guys.
So there is a lot to talk about. So much. And Megan, you attended Wednesday night's Dynamite.
Oh, good. I lost my mind.
and the Rampage taping that will be aired tonight.
Spoilers airing soon.
However, I want to start with something different.
Okay.
Only because we have had for weeks on end running conversations about the value, the setup, the behind the scenes that is all AEW All Access.
Mm-hmm.
Now that season 1 is over, Megan, what is your thought and your how do you feel about AEW All Access? Was it a product that you watched? Was it something that you put a lot of stake in? Tell us, because we've been doing this for weeks. EJ and I have very strong opinions about All Access.
I watched it. I enjoyed it. I don't love how much they were trying to get Sammy over. That kind of wasn't good for me. I didn't like him or Tay's storyline. I mean, I appreciated it, but don't try to make me like Sammy. It's not gonna happen. It was pretty much the Britt and Austin show. So I thought that was interesting, and probably is what has led, was leading up to the feud that he's in currently with MJF. So I can see the value in it. From something I read, but dirt sheets, so take it with a grain of salt. There will not be another season. They didn't have good ratings, and the wrestlers weren't super into having a camera in their face all the time. I wasn't excited about the way Thunder was presented. And I thought it made Britt look small and kind of tiny. Whereas towards the beginning, I was like, okay, well, they're showing Britt is a leader in the locker room, and, she really cares about the division. But the more she just kept complaining, I think Tony Schiavone gave her an out in one of their conversations and was just like, hey, this is just something that's happening. Well, just quit talking about it. And she just that's all she wanted to talk about. So didn't love that. Excited to see Thunder Rosa coming back. So, I mean, it was fine. It was okay. I mean, it was sort of like rose to the top for me. It was it wasn't can't miss TV, but I watched it.
Fine for a year, fine for an experiment.
Yeah.
Probably a good decision to not do it again, or to put it off until they get the right dynamic of characters or whatever.
So you're saying no Total Divas. It was not a Total Divas type of success.
It wasn't, and I think there was something really special about Total Divas, was that it was for the ladies, right? And I think that's what they were trying to do with this. But if that was the case, focus mostly on Tay, focus exclusively on Britt, right? I think the thing that Total Divas had that made it kind of special was it was an entertainment reality show first that happened to be about wrestling. And I think everybody on that show knew exactly what it was, knew how to handle it, knew how to, carry the drama and carry the storylines forward. It just happened to be about wrestling the same way Love on a Boat is about people that work on yachts. I think this tried to, straddle the line too much. And so it was neither a wrestling show nor a just straight up garbage reality show, right? And which is fine, but you pick a lane. Either it's a wrestling show where you're showing us backstage stuff about wrestling, or it's a reality show. And it wasn't really either.
I think where EJ and I both had some slight disagreement. How much of the show do you think was scripted? And how 100%. Much do you? Okay, see, I'm in the 100% boat too. Ellie, you thought there were some things that were in there that was a little bit more behind the curtains, right?
Well, I think what they had in mind ahead of time and throughout the filming process of what they wanted to come across, what I thought wasn't all a setup was just some of the peek behind the curtain as to how a show is produced, how wrestlers go from town to town. There was an element of that within the storylines of the Elite, of Britt and Austin, and of Sammy and Tay. Their sort of day-to-day lives, if that wasn't a manufactured thing. It was more those that was a little more organic. But the drama it was intended to create, how it translated to the shows, I'm well aware that there wasn't any airing of information that hadn't been very finely planned, combed over,
Mm.
just like a lot of things. Just, we're going to talk about it soon, but CM Punk's interview with ESPN just dropped today. And if you read that, you might worry, like, what's he going to say in this interview? What's he going to say tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows what he's going to say tomorrow, I hope, from Tony on down. But Collision, like I said, Collision just showed a peek behind the curtain that fans didn't ever get to see prior, and that was real. Yeah, that makes sense.
That tracks, right? But I don't think it was any more. I think BTE is realer than All Access was.
You think BTE was more real?
If I want to see them travel, I'll watch the first 2 minutes of BTE, right? Like, there was nothing about it that I was like, oh, like, this feels authentic. And that's what I was saying. Like, either be a behind the scenes wrestling show or be a garbage reality show that happens to have wrestlers on it.
Yeah.
Like, pick a lane.
I enjoyed it for what it was, and it didn't exceed nor take away my expectations.
If they'd had RJ City narrating it,
more RJ City.
They could have done so. They could have done so.
He's done so much more with RJ City
in there. Like, Renee has experience. She knows how these things work. If they'd have had somebody else in charge of it, I think it would have been more successful. Or if they'd have chosen different people to focus on.
Hey, I tell you, if AEW becomes more successful than it currently is, if it grows and grows, then things like a version of the Sessions with Renee, versions of AEW, that might make it to broadcast television or whatever, or streaming service, or wherever you want to consume it more than those currently on. But like everything else, it's all going to be about how the track of, unfortunately, ratings, and that's part of the business. If it continues to succeed, those will all come in time. If drama makes it an unsustainable place to work, it will not work out. That's why these next few weeks are so important for AEW.
Agreed.
Yeah, just to put a bow on All Access, there's one thing that I thought was really accurate, and it was the trajectory of Sammy coming to work with nothing to do oftentimes. That has been our podcast for 6 months of AEW complaints, and like a microcosm of a few weeks. Like Sammy being in the main event one day, and then like for the next 2 weeks being like, I don't even have an assignment. I'm like holding the camera just for jokes, but I have to show up every week.
Well, the truth is there are a handful of wrestlers who will look at Sammy and go, "Hey, you were on last week. I haven't been on in 4 or 5 weeks."
Sure.
They're trying to solve that possibly with Collision, so we'll see.
We'll see, but I thought that part was awesome because it made me laugh.
Let's get into Megan's experience from Wednesday.
It was so good.
All right, you guys go ahead.
I want to hear all about it, Megan. Like, I want to hear about when you arrived, what you kind of first saw. Tell me about like just the experience of being downtown DC at Capital One Arena with the fans as they were being let in before you let in. What kind of interaction did you see with any fans, or tell me about the getting in process and what it looked like before the show actually started?
Well, it was at Capital One Arena, and this time was actually very, very different. So shout out to Spot Hero. I was able to secure a spot for like $30 to park that was actually underneath the arena. We took an elevator from the parking lot. I didn't know it was underneath the arena. It's like gallery place. So I knew it was like under the mall, but I didn't realize how close the arena was to the mall. And we literally took an elevator up and walked like all of 20 feet, and we're at the door.
So you weren't even outside milling around.
No, we weren't.
Okay.
And it was like, we got there at like 6:30, 6:45. Doors opened at 6, and they had already filtered in like the crowd of people that were waiting.
Okay.
So we walked straight in. I will say Capital One Arena was super nice. It was like, the lines were kind of short because they had so many options for concessions and beer and stuff like that. They had an amazing hot pretzel. I really liked that.
Shout out Capital One Hot Pretzel. Answer this for me. When the show in that 90, they probably had a feature match or two before Dynamite went on the air.
Just one. They had Nyla Rose come out and did a show.
The hard cam area, we've seen from pictures was kind of, I guess, for sale, but some of it was roped off. What would you estimate the crowd size was at the time Dynamite started at 8?
At the time, by the time it started at 8, I would say the arena looked pretty full. The
Okay.
hard cam side, there was an entire section that was
Yep.
like just completely roped off. So there
Very
wasn't
common.
anybody there.
Mhm.
And then to one side of that was completely full. And then to the other side, that's kind of closer to, I guess, like the ramp and where people were going up, that was like kind of half roped off. But I would say, like, by the time Dynamite actually kicked off, it went from being like, we were actually kind of worried because we were like, oh, like, there's not a ton of people here yet. Like, what do the ticket sales look like for this show? I mean, we went to go to the merch table and came back, and our section went from like us and a like family down to the side to like being packed and like having to like get past people and stuff. So I mean, they did a pretty good job drawing in DC. It seemed almost all the way full from where we were. There was some top sections open too. Those looked pretty packed out. All of the boxes were sold out. So, I mean, they seem to have done a good job in DC with getting people out. And it was good. It was a good crowd of people. We were in a section with, you know, some good fans. They were like talking shit and like having fun. It was funny. Before Dynamite match was Nyla, Marina Shafira, and Emmy versus Maki to Riho and Abaddon.
Yeah.
And,
who got the best reaction of those 6?
You said what?
Who got the best reaction out of those 6?
I would say first Nyla, because she's from DC, and so I was excited to see her get a match there because I mean that's her hometown, so people popped really hard for Nyla. But then when like Maki came out and then Riho, like people went crazy.
Okay.
But Nyla like threw Riho out to like the apron, and like 4 different people around us were like, "It's the hardest part of the ring, JR." Like, so it was like
they were really into it.
Nerds hanging out, watching wrestling. So it was super fun. We had a really good time.
Great. Okay, so let's get. I mean, Dynamite starts. Okay, here's what I want to know: when they brought out Excalibur, Taz, and Tony, which one of those 3 got the biggest pop?
Tony Schiavone.
That's what I'm talking about.
Which we were a little sad about because we're big Taz fan Jones.
Oh really?
Yeah, we love
I thought you were reading for Excalibur.
Well, no, Taz and Excalibur are like our faves.
Yeah,
like, we are checking for Taz and Excalibur. Whenever they start talking, like we shut up and listen. So I popped the hardest for Taz, but then as soon as Tony came out and they announced Tony, actually the Dapper Yapper Justin Roberts got a huge pop. People
love Justin Roberts,
and he's so good. Like Justin's so good at working the crowd. Like he pointed out people's signs. We sang happy birthday to people. There was these cute little kids these 2 little girls dressed up in a ref uniform. He brought them into the ring to take a picture with Aubrey. Like it's just like Justin's critically underrated for what he does to MC that show and get the crowd hot and get people excited about wrestling. It was an amazing experience all around.
Okay. Highlights of Dynamite for you, seeing it live in person. It started off hot with MJF and Adam Cole. Did anyone know that was going to be the opening card?
No one really knew. Not at all.
The crowd hears Adam Cole and they lose their mind.
Yeah, people went nuts over Adam Cole. I think everybody was hitting the booms and the babies. So that was dope. MJF, a really huge reaction from the crowd. That match was really, really good. And it was interesting to watch it live because like you're not really as much looking at your phone and stuff. Like I was taking some pictures, but like you're not really tracking the time. But it felt like it was over in a minute, but it was like a 30-minute match. But it was good. I mean, start to finish. And the crowd was with them the whole way. Honestly, like as loud as it sounded on Dynamite, like it doesn't compare at all to how insanely loud it was in there for that match.
Yeah, if you've been to wrestling shows, if there's more than 5,500, 6,000, 7,000 people, it gets loud. Cheats, what'd you think of that ending? How do you think that got booked? Are you satisfied with that? Because we know our Tuesday buddy Tom was not satisfied with how that was booked.
Yeah, I don't think he would. I think he had complaints in the group chat about the booking. I don't think anybody had a problem with the ending because we figured it couldn't end clean. It had to continue the story. I was really, really surprised that they gave them 30 minutes without a run-in, right? Like without really major shenanigans at the end of the match. But, you know, fortuitous timing that the bell rings right when they're about to hit 3. I think it's chef kiss of a like script. When you're watching it, it's a great match, and then you're just like, I think I would have preferred, and I'll get your take on this. I think I would have preferred the match end like the Danielson Iron Man matches where the time just ran out. Like the fact that it was like 1, 2, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
It just seemed very gimmicky as opposed to these guys that gave 30 minutes everything they had and just like finished it out.
Agreed. I have no problem with it ending in a time limit draw when it happens so dramatically. You got to remember this is television; it's got to look kind of dramatic. But and it's the byproduct of us just being older and being fans. But like, yes, you do a little bit of a groan when you're like, oh, to your point, Mark, like. Let them be slugging it out when the bell rings. Let them be spilling out. Let something else happen. But I had no problem with how it ended. It obviously has to move the storyline. Any kind of clean finish was not going to happen at this first. But yeah, it came across so good on television. It got obviously a full 30 minutes. Was the crowd taken out a little bit for the next match? Because it kind of kept going. But what was the crowd reaction when the second match started, or how the sort of flow go as you reach like the 9 o'clock hour?
What was after that?
I'm having a little trouble remembering.
I think I have it. Hold on. There were some Forbidden Door promos. Hold on 1 second.
And they play the promos on the big screen. Megan, I want to get to.
I will say the crowd stayed hot. Like there wasn't a period where people were like, meh.
I kind of want to know about the crowd's reaction to CM Punk's promo.
People were booing like crazy.
I saw a video of it.
Ad came on, every time CM Punk's face came on the screen, like there were way more boos than cheers.
Mark, should AEW be worried about that?
Not tomorrow night.
No.
They shouldn't be worried about it in Chicago. I think they will have to figure out what's the best use of a CM Punk long term. And I do think it's very much not to go back to All Access, but it's very much like the Bucks are going to get one reaction in one town, and then they were going to get a completely different reaction in another town, and they kind of knew that. And AEW was smart enough to play into, okay, the Bucks are going to be received well here in LA. They're not going to be received well in Chicago. If they understand that CM Punk is going to be received well on Saturday in Chicago, but he probably will not be received well most places outside of that, I think they make him heel pretty quickly and try to just get as much heat on him as possible. That's what I think.
I think that's probably a solid point. Like I don't think anybody's going to reach Don Callis' first show after Double or Nothing nuclear heat levels where no one can hear what he's saying. He can't hear what he's saying. But I honestly think you got to turn him heel, and you got to turn him heel fast.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Because he's a shitbird heel. Like that's what he is. I honestly am really disappointed that they're platforming him. Not only everything that happened with AEW, but I don't know if you guys saw the clip resurfaced of him and actually Colt Cabana, which really disappointed me because I thought Colt was a bit of a better guy. But I mean, hey, birds of a feather fly together. It came out of them talking about their like independent days, and it was talking about a woman that was interested in wrestling, and they promised to train her, kept her around, made sure she didn't get booked so she could be a ride for them to go to shows. They all talked about having relations with this woman and using her for her car, and then intentionally trying to hurt her during training sessions so that she could not get booked but would still be well enough to drive them and they wouldn't chip in gas. And I mean, it's just like disgusting watching the little video of them. So I'm good off Punk for life. I don't think like get your money out of the contract. It's better than giving him money and letting him walk, but I'm cool.
Will you be watching Collision on Saturday?
I'll watch, but more for Miro and Thunder Rosa and Andrade. Like there are people on that show that I really want to watch. I'll probably tolerate CM Punk this first time to see what he says. But if that ESPN article is any indication, I think we should just expect more of the same. He feels like he's the victim in all this. He feels like he's been wronged and he's just defending himself. And he's an ass. I'm good. Like, I'd be good if I never saw CM Punk on my TV again. And to be quite honest, like, I used to be the hugest CM Punk mark.
Oh, we know.
You did.
So-
We know.
It's really disappointing, but I mean, it is what it is at this point.
You're
And
breaking a little news to me. I was unaware of that CM Punk Colt Cabana video. I'll follow up if you know where it is. Let me know. But I haven't heard anything about that. That's not a good
it's
look.
disgusting, but you
that's-
can find it. It's out there. I mean, if you put in CM Punk Colt Cabana like ring rat video, I'm sure you'll find it. There are probably more, right? But this is the one that just surfaced most recently, and I'm good.
Something else that Tony's going to have to deal with. The only part of the ESPN article that I found interesting was that he's saying how him and Tony are great now. CM Punk said he apologized to Tony. I think that's fine. He sounds a little bit regretful about what he said, but I don't think he's the least bit regretful about how he feels. He has his opinion. Like we said months ago when it happened, as we analyzed weeks after it happened, this now falls squarely on Tony as a boss to manage this, because I don't think it's past time to fix it without taking a definitive step. So Tony's going to have, this is one of many things, while they have so much riding on things right now and riding such a high wave, I think, with Wembley selling 65,000 seats, Forbidden Door looks great. It's positive for the company that CM Punk is back on television. It does draw fans. It does bring eyes to the product. However, how the company is managed often determines a company's success. I am hoping that things will work out okay, because I want that company to succeed. So I'm looking forward to be entertained, but a whole lot after that, your dog has some strong opinions about this situation too. I am cautiously.
He hates CM Punk too.
I'm cautiously.
He would fight Larry.
He would fight Larry. Probably beat Larry. So I'm really curious, Mark. Your take on sort of Collision, and we're gonna get back to Dynamite because I want to talk about that final.
I do.
The main event mostly,
but also know what happens next, which was a Sammy Guevara interview.
Okay, Sammy. Well, let's just finish the CM Punk segment, so we don't need to talk about it on the second half of the show. God. I want to get Cheats' opinion. Cheats, Collision. Just give us your opinion on how CM Punk's gonna fit in, what he needs to do, what Tony needs to do, and does the EVPs need to do anything moving forward, or does Tony just need to manage two different islands?
Yeah, I look at CM Punk like I look at like a Terrell Owens or an Antonio Brown, which is, and what I mean by that is when they get to a new team or a new situation, give them 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months, maybe even a whole season of flying straight, and then sooner or later their personalities will reveal themselves. And I do think that even when CM Punk came back to AEW, he flew straight for until he felt he was too comfortable not to. And then we got what we got. I think he understands that, everybody's going to be watching him. There's going to be a big promo. So he's not going to come in on Saturday and be a jerk. I think if he goes 6 months, if he goes 7 months, that'll be great. It will not end well with AEW and CM Punk, I don't believe. So the question is, how much do you get out of him when you can? How does he kind of go away? Is it physical injury? Because it may be a physical injury that takes him out, or is it, something more personality, locker room based? But I think I would expect him. It's June 16th. I would expect CM Punk to fly straight till the end of the year, and then maybe November, December, we'll start hearing about him being unhappy or the locker room being unhappy or something of that nature.
Well, one thing is proven: WCWF team is still somewhat divided on CM Punk in this topic. I like it. I respect everyone's opinion. Megan, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I don't think anybody said it better than my favorite wrestler of all time, Jon Moxley. When he was discussing CM Punk, he said, fragile mind, fragile body, fragile ego. And I think CM Punk's probably going to get hurt again. He was there for all of 5 minutes and had 2 major injuries, one self-inflicted, jumping into the crowd like some idiot. The second one in his match with Mox, he completely tore his shoulder, which was the last injury that he just healed from. I don't think he's going to last. I think he's going to get hurt again. I think he knows that his time is coming, and I do not give him odds are 0 to none that he goes out on his back like a man. I think he is going to kick and scream the entire way, and we're going to have to watch it.
What a promo. Megan, you are shot out of a cannon. I love it.
I'm done. I'm good off CM Punk.
Moving from CM Punk back to Sammy Guevara, how did the DC crowd? I texted you.
We started a chant. It was my favorite thing. So Darby
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, listen, the people are starting to love you again." And I was so sad it didn't make it onto TV. But our entire section, me and Jared started a chant where we were like, "On the fence, because we don't love Sammy yet."
I'm not a Sammy fan yet. Did it work at all for you? His story.
I see what they're doing. He's going to break away from Jericho,
Mm-hmm.
which, I mean, it's time for that, I think, for him, especially if they want to move him on to being any type of main event player on his own. It's fine.
I think he's going to become a super over face. I think Jungle Boy is going to become a super heel. I don't know how over he'll get for that, but I think those two are getting ready to because they're both just recently challenged for the world title.
Mm-hmm.
They're 2 pillars still. I don't think Jack Perry is just a pillar anymore, but Cheats, are you predicting a big Sammy push and a big Jack Perry heel turn?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that both of those things are going to happen, but I actually really love Sammy, so I hope he does really, really well. I think he's phenomenal, in the ring, outside, like personal life notwithstanding, but I do, I actually just really like Sammy. I've always thought he was really good, and I think he's, it's time. If you were going to ask me between Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, and Sammy Guevara, who I'd want to see elevate it to the next level, it's Sammy by far. So, I mean, I really like him.
I mean, honestly, I think out of all the 3 of those, he's probably the most interesting to watch work. Darby makes me very uncomfortable because I'm like, you're gonna die very soon. But Sammy's probably one of the most interesting workers out of that full pillars thing. Obviously, other than MJF.
Yeah, MJF
reminds us every time he wrestled, which is so infrequently, how good he is. I think Sammy's the second best out of the pillars, and so it's fine. I'll watch him. He puts on good matches.
He puts on great matches. He really is. He works hard, man. He's got a workload. I really like Sammy Guevara. And they've got to figure something out with Jungle Boy. So turning him heel, that's fine. I don't care.
I don't think he'll realign himself with Christian again. But
he does nothing for me ever and never has. And they, kept trying to make him a thing, and it's like Fetch isn't going to be a thing. Sorry, Jack Perry's not going to be a thing.
All right, Megan.
Trying to make Fetch happen.
We're gonna deviate again from Dynamite. Yes. I'm gonna ask you this question.
Am I ever gonna get to talk about Will Ospreay? Because I screamed like a little girl.
Absolutely.
We are
just making sure, putting a pin in that.
Taking out the guy you don't like, Phil. Do you see Collision as being like this island of misfit toys of a show?
I do.
Thunder Rosa, Andrade, Miro, Thunder, these people who have been either, off camera for a long time, maligned to some degree or another, both by the wrestling community, the fans, and at some point by other wrestlers too. That's a main reason. I mean, CM Punk's included on that list also. I mean, that's the main reason I want that show to succeed. There's part of me also that man, Saturday Night Wrestling on a Turner channel, that hits me in all the feels too, because it brings back a lot of feelings for me. I mean, that's really why I want that show to be successful. And it looks like it will have a dedicated roster, and I guess Dynamite and whatever Rampage ends up being is going to have some roster also. So anyway, I wanted to throw that out because that Island of Misfits Toys concept, especially with that talent, I think it could really, really work. I'm not saying that Collision is going to be this savior that's going to change everything, but right now, it feels like the dust is settling and they have like drivers behind all their wheels.
Yeah.
Their moves that they've made like in the office. I'm curious if like you took away from your experience seeing it live and from watching it the last few weeks, and Mark, I want to hear you too. Does it feel right now that going into this very crucial period, there are steady hands on all the wheels with AEW that's maybe turned a corner even?
I would hope so. Right?
It needs to.
They've hired our friend Will Washington on creative, especially for continuity sake on storylines. They brought in a couple of other people to coach and train. I would say probably until the ESPN story dropped and like CM Punk just wanted to like rehash all the stuff about Hangman and talk about how everybody's mean to him. I felt like they were in a better place, and at the very least, I thought they had contained like his bullshit to Saturday night, right? Like let Ace Steel be over there biting people, it's fine. I really hope so because again, like Miro, Andrade, Thunder, Hobbs and Starks are heading over there from what I hear. Like there are people there that I'm dying to see. I love Andrade, like I love Miro. I'm really, really looking forward to them having a platform, having an opportunity to shine. I would be really, really disappointed if Punk ruined that for everybody, which I think he has the ability to do, unfortunately.
The roster on Collision would be the live show I'd want to see.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be the road show I would want to go out of my way to go see, would be with that cast. Cheats, like you're a businessman.
Yep. Sure.
Are the next 4 quarters of AEW going to determine the next 2 years or 3 years of success?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I do think that let's get back to your previous question, which do I think AEW has their hands on the wheel and like driving in the right direction?
Yeah.
I think AEW is doing what AEW has always done. I have no more confidence or less confidence right now than ever before. if they figure, like, they haven't snapped their fingers and figured it out. It's still Tony Khan, and he's still very much Tony Khan, which means he's all over the place. Which means there's a good chance that AEW Collision may not be there in 3 months. We don't know. So you've got to like prove that you can make this work, in my mind, effectively before we really, really believe in it. And then in regards to a product, I think this is going to be really challenging. Unless, and do we know, is Rampage going away?
Don't believe so.
Not from my understanding. So Rampage and Dynamite, from what I understand, Rampage and Dynamite are still on the same deal that they had before. They have not re-signed that. No. Everything's still the way it has been, and it's still under the current contract.
And is Collision?
Yes, Warner Brothers came to them and specifically said they wanted more content, and they wanted it on Saturday.
And I think that is fine, but I also think that we have to understand what our expectations are now. So from a television booking content, Collision is 2 hours or 1?
2.
I think it's 2.
I think it's 2 as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you've gone from what we were doing, just standard fare, to now having 2 hours of Dynamite, 1 hour of Rampage, and another 2 hours of Collision in 1 week. That's a lot of AEW wrestling, right?
So it's the exact same number of hours that WWE has.
Yeah, but it's not I get it, but it's not right now. We have to prove that they can maintain an entertaining Dynamite, which is the flagship show, right? We got to make sure that that's the flagship show, and they've got to do things like they did Wednesday night and book it like a flagship show.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to turn around, give the people something after they're coming off of 2 hours of SmackDown TV on Friday night and watch Rampage for an extent. And then you're turning around Saturday and giving them 2 hours of, Collision, and hopefully we can maintain it. I'm a little afraid overall that it's just a lot for Tony Khan. And we always talk about like Tony Khan doing other things. He's got a soccer team. He's doing things with a football team. He's trying to figure this stuff out. And I've been very impressed overall when you listen to him do some long-term interviews, how much time he dedicates to all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got to figure out, like Elliot has always said, we've got to figure out like who's actually making some of these decisions, who's going to set the table for some of these shows. How is this stuff going to look? And if it is like a different, like if it's a different mindset, like basically I'm trying to figure out, should we expect like Dynamite to play into, Rampage, to play into Collision? Or I guess the beauty of a brand split is you kind of try to treat them like two different leagues or two different shows, where whatever happens on Collision, it just kind of happens on Collision, and then it doesn't spill over to Dynamite. And as we've always talked about, WWE has a very hard time doing this. Even with a established brand split for years, they don't really brand split. They rotate belts. They've got titles defending on the wrong channel, and they're just expecting the wrestling fan to accept all of this. I think it's going to be a real challenge for AEW to keep 5 hours of television, especially if it's not continuous, they're not continuing stories on. I think it's going to be really tough. I think it's going to be a big test. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have a lot of confidence right now that everything is like up and up, because like I said, either it's a giant work and we're all getting worked, or CM Punk's gonna be like CM Punk in like 4 months, 5 months, and like you said, he could collapse the whole show over there at Collision.
Well, here's why I have slightly more optimism than you, and this is going to segue into me throwing to you, Megan, because I do want to talk about this final segment that we had on Dynamite that Megan, you were there for. Here's why I'm more confident, and then Megan, I want to get your thoughts on it. AEW is really good at creating those moments. They are able to do it, and they can do it week after week. What they did in those final 10 minutes of Dynamite is more exciting than pretty much any 10-minute segment I've watched on the other promotion in a long time. A promotion that we've talked about. We have a Tuesday show that talks about how great that show's getting, how much more interesting, and especially with story continuity, that show has become. And there have been some outstanding moments in the main Bloodline storyline that you've been at the edge of your seat. But for the drama and excitement we saw Wednesday, I can't look back on any part of programming on the other promotion and been that hyped for that long, with runouts, with appearances. They don't do that. If AEW can pull that off, that's why I'm more confident, and I don't see why they couldn't, especially what they have booked. With that, Megan, tell us what it was like being there in those final 15 minutes. And then, Mark, I want to get your reaction to why you're laughing.
So, one of the biggest pops of the night was Eddie coming out.
Yeah, he was.
I know. Opinions are split on this particular show about the merits of Eddie Kingston being a World Star Wrestler.
Did the people around you know what the Lois T-shirt meant? Did you know what the Lois T-shirt meant?
No, what was it?
Lois is Tony Schiavone's wife. That's he sells that shirt on his Conrad Thompson. The shirt says, what does it say about Lois? It says, the shirt is one of the shirts that Tony Schiavone sells. Lois Schiavone is Tony's wife. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, didn't know that, but the crowd lost their mind for Eddie.
Yeah.
I mean, those last few minutes, it was so fast and so crazy. And I mean, we got Takeshita, we got Kenny. People were losing their minds, and I was on my feet. I was cheering. I was screaming. I straight up turned into a little girl when I saw Will Ospreay slide into the ring.
Did you see him? He came out from right in front of us. Right in front of
Jared covered his ears because I don't know what happened, because I kind of blacked out for a minute, but I apparently squealed like a child and was like, "Oh my God, Will Ospreay!" Because I love me some Will Ospreay. Like, he has grown on me so much since we saw him in DC at that New Japan Pro Collision show. Capital
Yep.
Collision. I've been a huge Will Ospreay mark. And when he came out, like, it was electric in there. Like, people were on their feet. People were losing their mind through that whole, like, from Eddie coming out all the way through the end of the show. People were going insane. And to speak, I think maybe back to like what you guys were, what your concern was with like this new 2 hours of television. I think you have enough like stable Dynamite stars that like I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think there'll probably be some floaters like maybe Bullet Club, Ricky, FTR, people like that. But like, give me what we had on Wednesday all day, any day, and I think people will be fine. Like, you still got BCC, you've got the Elite, like you've got a good Wednesday crew, and I think like the reason they've been able to hold stuff down so well is probably the baseline of a lot of the complaints that many of the wrestlers that are ending up on Collision had, right? Was that like, well, we're not getting any time. You've got, you know, people that you're too invested in on Wednesday nights. And I will say, like, from Eddie's song dropping until the end of the show, people were losing their mind, myself included.
Cheats, what'd you think of that finish on Wednesday?
No, I love the finish. I'm not going to knock the finish. The finish is amazing. I love the finish. It was a great finish. I laughed really hard because Eddie Kingston gave 2 spinning back fists.
He did. I laughed too when I saw it. I was like,
what is happening here?
There's no one in wrestling that gives a better spinning back fist named Eddie Kingston.
Exactly. I think he's proven that, even though, correct me if I'm wrong, did Eddie look more out of shape?
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah, that was probably a triple X Lewis Rules
like,
t-shirt.
Seriously, though, like you know, Eddie's going through some things. He had some injuries. You know, Eddie, we're always worried about Eddie in some way. Eddie looked like he had been off for a while.
Well, Eddie's been wrestling. He's been doing some stuff on Ring of Honor. That's the whole reason he came out, is because he's going after the belt with Claudio. He's in the G1, so he's been over in Japan quite a bit. So I mean, he's wrestling.
He's not missing any meals. That Eddie Kingston.
I mean, he's eating good, but
he's eating good. He's eating good.
Hey, he's a favorite. He's a favorite in the G1. Believe it or not,
people are really into it.
Yeah, no, but I love the ending. I am with Megan when, like, Will Ospreay's just amazing. He's really good.
Is.
But they're not going to have. They don't have Ospreay every week.
And he did that weird back kick where he like kicks. He kicks around you, but still somehow kicks you in the face.
He's phenomenal. He really is. And I, you know, Kenny's growing on. He's always grown on me as he's continue on as well. I do like the usage of Takeshita being a heel. I think that's great. So I mean, I thought that ending was phenomenal. I think that ending is what gets people excited about AEW. And I think they figured out. I think the elite Blackpool
BCC
rivalry is you know, the best thing. I think it's the best thing they have going. I think it's better, and I think that's why they closed the show with it, because I think that's better than whatever MJF has going. And I mean, MJF has a great storyline going and all that stuff, but I think like everybody that's paying attention to AEW realizes like this is the best thing that's going. And then if you throw in Kenny and Will at Forbidden Door, you throw in Bryan Danielson and the Rainmaker at Forbidden Door, like you've got some really cool, like, you know, open belt challenges. The IWGP was like an open challenge. Like you got some really cool things that were happening on this show that was like leading up to Forbidden Door as well. So I don't know if I'm gonna go as far as say what did you say, Elliot? It's the most exciting 10 minutes you've had.
That 10 minutes,
like,
that 10 minutes of wrestling.
Like ever? Like ever?
No, I said that final segment was more exciting and better than anything I'd seen on the other promotion in several months.
Let me ask this: is it the best? Is the final segment the best thing you've seen on AEW television? Period.
No, what I said was that was as exciting AEW television as I've personally been like hyped up since some of those peak MJF CM Punk promos.
What's it, Megan? Where does this rank for you? That last 10 minutes. Where does that rank in regards to AEW programming?
I'm not gonna say it's the highest, but it's high. Like it was up there.
All right, so what's the? I have a moment in my head that I think is the highest. What do you think is the highest?
For me, forever will always
just AEW.
be the end of the first Double or Nothing when
Mox's
music when he had that track that was like that motorcycle noise, like him coming out, that's always going to be number one for me. Weirdly enough, the parking lot brawl with Santana Ortiz and Best Friends ranks really high on my list of best AEW moments. But yeah, that's up there though. What
do you got, Elliot?
I mean, honestly, the top moments that got me the most excited were CM Punk's return
in Chicago. It's a big one.
In Chicago, that's a huge one. MJF's return at the end of the fall.
Okay, at the end of the day.
With the devil. That was another one that like the
reveal.
Rolling Stone song playing.
Yeah, exactly. That reveal. I mean, MJF's freak out on Tony leaving the company at the beginning of the summer.
Oh my God.
Was a huge moment on television.
That was so amazing.
But we can also go back and look at things like some of Cody's matches with Sammy, some of Cody and
Brody.
Cody and Brody. That's exactly what I was going to say.
That's more nostalgic. That wasn't the best.
Well, we're talking.
I mean, it is what it is. Side note: I hugged Amanda Hoover at the end of the show.
Oh, did you really?
Oh, that's fantastic.
She was down like running. She was doing production stuff. And,
I meant to ask you what shirt did you wear to the show?
I wore the Fight Like an 8-year-old girl shirt.
Nice.
But she was running around, and my little brother who got me tickets for my birthday is a huge Brody Lee fan. He had on his Brody shirt, and he pointed her out. He saw her first. He's like, she's been down here all night, like running around and doing stuff. And I called her. I was like, hey, he's got on his Brody shirt. Like, he's a huge fan of your husband. Like, can he take a picture with you? And then she saw my shirt for Finlay, and she was like, can I hug you? And I was like, yeah, you can hug me.
What a moment.
It was amazing.
We should also shout out Muscleman Malcolm, who was there at the show.
He was
a friend of our program.
Nice.
No, nobody said my favorite moment, which was the I don't know what pay-per-view it was the end of, but it was the Adam Cole debut followed by the Bryan Danielson
debut. Sure.
That was my favorite because Cole comes out and everybody thinks it's over. He turns heel, and then Danielson comes out and everyone goes nuts. That also might have been the pay-per-view that had the Lucha Brothers Young Bucks in the cage, like in the cage. That was just like a Lucha Brothers on the title. It's amazing. All right, Elliot, go ahead on. I've digressed.
So, I mean, Megan, if you chose a live event to go to, you chose the match. I mean, it's the card of the year so far.
Very good card.
I mean, and honestly, we're about to have two events that literally could blow those out of the water. We've got Wembley, which again, we're looking at 65,000. It's near a sellout if they're going to end up with a pretty full Wembley Stadium. There have been a couple of matches, I guess, announced for that too. But before that is Forbidden Door, which is getting to look stacked. And hopefully we're going to get on a good weekly schedule this summer while you're here, Megan. And this won't be the only show that you'll join us with, because we're gonna have to preview Forbidden Door. The only thing so far for Forbidden Door that's kind of bummed me out is Jungle Boy accepting Sonata's IWGP title match.
I didn't get that.
Well, I'm sure we've heard there's lots of like negotiation that happens between New Japan and AEW to put this thing together. And just like any sort of international diplomatic relation, there are probably concessions somewhere. I think in last year, the IWGP title was sort of more prominently featured and contested. So this might be the year that we're going to feature the AEW title more. And, so Tanahashi's going to have a shot at the AEW title for the second time. He had it last year too in the 4-way that happened. And I don't want to make predictions yet about that, but what are you more excited for? I mean, I know what you're most excited for, and as it's the same with me too. Of what's been announced so far, Cheats, what are you sort of getting most geeked about as possibly could be the absolute show stealer of the night?
Will Ospreay and Omega, right?
That's exactly what.
Yeah,
That's exactly.
I mean, that's going to be
Yeah.
that's going to be the best match.
That's going to be the best match. You know,
Yeah.
you're going to get fantastic matches out of Okada and Danielson, and you're going to get. And I'm, you know, what's been announced so far, you know, you're going to get a great match out of. I hope they give Zack Sabre Jr. a better opponent than Daniel Garcia, but you know, it might work out that way. Is Sting and Chris Jericho going to actually fight each other in a singles match in 2023?
It might happen. I know Sting's on his way out. He's made allusions to that quite a few times that, you know, it's getting close to the end. So I don't know, like maybe one big blow off feud for him. I think of all the people that have done like a retirement run, Sting's has been the most successful and the most successful at putting other people over. So I mean, whatever he does, like I'll stand up and clap.
Yeah. I do want to know sort of like, so the show ends at 10 o'clock. What's the turnaround time sort of before Rampage gets going? Tell me about how that production sort of changed. We saw on Twitter, Kenny gave another speech before
he did,
off camera,
and they welcomed Eddie into the Elite. They told him that he had a spot with the Elite anytime he wanted to come wrestle because like they needed more good guys.
When you think of Eddie Kingston, you think of Elite. You know, elite body.
He's the most elite professional wrestler named Eddie.
That he is. Yeah, talk about the turnaround time between that.
10 or 15 minutes, not long at all.
Change the ring apron, change the signage.
Sanjay, no, who was in that match? Jay Lethal, Karen, and Jeff Jarrett versus Aubrey and the Briscoe people.
We're gonna have spoilers here.
Oh yeah,
if we're gonna talk about it.
You don't want to. Yes, I'm just gonna talk about it. I won't say who won.
Yeah, don't do that.
But that headlined Rampage. Then you have an amazing match with Will Ospreay, one of the guys from Aussie Open, whose name I still don't know, but he's amazing, and Jeff Cobb versus Best Friends and Rocky, I guess Chaos. And I mean, it was was great. And then we also got a so that turnaround between Dynamite and Rampage was actually much faster than the turnaround between Rampage and the Ring of Honor match that went next, because for Ring of Honor, they had to change like the barricades. They had to change the mat. Rampage was a lot faster because it was just like clearing everything out and changing the skirt, right? Like,
so you had a Ring of Honor taping as well?
Yes. You would have lost your mind.
How long is that night?
We got out of there at like 12. It wasn't bad. It was pretty much the same amount of time being there that it used to be when you would go and you had like dark tapings on the front end. It's just now it's on the back. But you would have loved the ROH match, Cheats. I gotta send you some pictures because by that point, like people were starting to clear out because it was late and the train stopped running. So we got to move into the second row. So we might be on ROH TV, but it was El Hijo de Vikingo.
Yeah, he's great.
The Lucha Bros and Commander versus like a group was like Butcher and Blade and like Serpentico and a couple of people. But that actually was a longer turnaround. That was probably about 15-20 minutes getting set up because they had to change out everything, including like the signage on the barricades and stuff.
Do we have any confidence that they know what they're doing with ROH? Even with the tape shows, and they've got some good ROH cards, but do we know? Like, I don't hear anything about ROH.
I think it's fallen to the back burner, to be quite honest, with all the other stuff going on.
They do tapings. They have it on the streaming service. That's consistent. It's very well could be. You know, we said this probably this time last year. They got to get through Forbidden Door. They got to get through Wembley. Then maybe they'll have something established for Ring of Honor. We'll see, but I mean, it is not something that's planned for television as of right now. It's it's obviously going to feature Ring of Honor talent because Ring of Honor talent shows up regularly, almost as much as New Japan talent shows up there of late. So the show ended. So about midnight, y'all were cut out of there.
Yeah, but it was great. I mean, like I got to shake Pence's hand. I saw Ray Phoenix.
Yeah.
I got up and close with Serpentico. I got to take a picture with the guy that always walks, the security guard that always walks Mox out, like Mox's body man. I actually had okay, so embarrassing Megan story. Had a nice long skirt on, and I tried to jump between two rows of the seating, and I cut my thumb. And when I got down there, I was like, I'm busted open. I need a Band-Aid. And Mox's body man brought me a Band-Aid. It was really sweet. And so I took a picture with him.
How about that?
But it was just it was banging from Nyla walking out to the very end. It was amazing. And honestly, to say with ROH, I'm a little sad that things shook out the way they did for them, because Tony was trying to get them a TV deal. That didn't happen because, specifically, I think because Warner Brothers wanted another AEW show, quote unquote. Warner Brothers didn't want Warner Media Group didn't want them running. They wanted to have exclusive rights to all AEW stuff, so they shut them down doing Dark and Dark Elevation. So those aren't running anymore. So it seems like a lot of the developmental stuff is happening at ROH now, because they're working stuff out. Sky Blue just had a run with Athena and did really, really well in ROH. And so that led to her having this big match with Tony. So I worry that ROH is going to really become the developmental era kind of thing that's happening, but we'll see. I mean, they still have their hardcore fan base and people are watching. Honor Club apparently is getting a lot of streams, and
Rampage cheats. Two final thoughts. Cheats. Rampage was Jade Cargill's territory. We haven't seen her in a while. When are we going to see her pop back up?
No clue. No clue.
She said
I really don't
go to Japan and wrestle for a while, so we'll see. I mean, she was getting a lot better, to be quite honest.
It'd be a shame. It'd be a shame to have her off television. Every week that goes by, you don't feature Jade Cargill. I think is a missed opportunity. If you ask me,
maybe she shows up at Collision. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
That might be her. They haven't announced any big other than Thunder. They need to bring some women talent over there. So
Julia Hart will be there as part of House of Black, but she's not wrestling as much as she does. But
I think that speaks to the floaters again, right? Because you can't take the trios title off of the main show. Same thing with FTR. You can't take the tag team champions out of the main product. So I think we'll have enough floaters that it'll be fine.
This hour has been great. I think
it flew by.
It did fly by. But we covered Dynamite. Cheats. Final thoughts before we count it out and send us home.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Obviously to see Megan. Hello, welcome. Excited to hear about the live show, and I think I'm excited about wrestling right now, and I want to see what happens. I think it's going to take a while for things to come back in the way that we wanted to see them, especially ratings wise. I think summer ratings are always tough. Getting a lot of getting the numbers and the demos out are a little bit tough this time of year, but I think AEW is making some really exciting moments, some exciting shows. They got obviously Collision coming on Saturday, Forbidden Door, the Wembley show. They got the right, I think at this time they got the right champion, and they've got enough other talent like the Elite and Blackpool to they don't necessarily need belts. So they've got really good talent in place and a lot of opportunity. I just think that they, and obviously, as we mentioned a couple of times now, it seems like they've got the backing of Discovery, kind of Warner situation. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here, and if they're able to really make Collision work. I'm gonna, that'll be kind of the more interesting thing for me, because I do think they can do one-off booking. I think Forbidden Door will be fine. I think Wembley will be fine. But the question is, 6 months from now, and are we still talking about Collision, or is that going to fade to the background like Rampage? Rampage is almost an afterthought now.
Yeah.
When Rampage debuted, it debuted with CM Punk, that moment we talked about. And everybody was trying to figure out, is Rampage going to be the hour of wrestling we watch on Friday night? And it's kind of not that, right? So
definitely
figure it out.
Definitely not. Megan, earmuffs for 2 seconds. Coming up on next Tuesday's Wrestling Chat with Friends, the WWE Tuesday show, we're going to have a special guest joining us. Me and Tom will welcome someone who's going to talk wrestling because they are a semi-pro wrestler themselves. So I'm excited for Tuesday because we'll have a great guest. We'll also talk about all things that promotion. But
are you saying who your guest is, or are you just keeping it up in the air?
I'm holding. I know
holding it for suspense.
I'm holding it for one return text, but it is confirmed. It is confirmed. We will have that guest on. I didn't get a little bit of information. It's going to be awesome. And join us for that Tuesday show. Join us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter at WCWF Pod. This, however, Thursday is Cheats' show, so I'm going to let Cheats take us home.
It's Friday.
No, it's Friday, and it's really Megan's show tonight.
I miss it so much.
We're so excited to have you back, and we obviously goes without saying we love you. You're always welcome anytime to come on. And one of these days we'll get Ty back on, and we'll have all four of us, and all hell will break loose. Because, like, maybe that should be the Forbidden Doors.
I think so, right? Let's kick down the Forbidden Door. We could even bring Tom over. That's the real Forbidden Door. Is getting on the Tuesday WWE
show. He knows New Japan better than all of us combined. So, on that note, hey, look, really, really excited to see everyone. We're going to close this thing out. It's our time, so we're gonna count it out. 1, 2.
I'm glad you guys do this. And
until
that's
next
the show.
time.